breathe underwater.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. In this show, I want to tell you a little love story, okay? It's one of the saddest love stories that you're probably ever going to hear because it's a penitentiary love story. Not about people in prison that are having a relationship like that. No. I'm talking about this is a brother that has a woman that's on the town. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those situations where I hit first. You feel what I mean? And it's basically about how we, the individuals that are incarcerated, how we become so afraid of the future that we don't even attempt to believe that good things can come to us because of our situation. So we act out in a very negative way, right? And I want to lay the foundation for this story because a lot of us, man, in here we'll have opportunities. People will be treating us good. And it doesn't always have to be somebody that we're romantically involved with. It can be a family member or a friend or somebody that we've met during our incarceration that is good to us. That's good to us. But we just can't seem to get past that fear of believing that we deserve to be treated nice. And that's part of that holding on to that guilt and that shame that we attach to ourselves, right? So check this out. This story is right here. You know what I'm saying? This story is about, you know what I'm saying, this guy that I'm not even gonna put a name on this person because I know some people out there that have been locked up with me that might be listening. They'll probably figure out who this is, right? And I want to really protect the identity of this individual for real. You know what I'm saying? Because they're still going through this. You know what I'm saying? They just keep making these same bad decisions when it comes to relationship. But let me lay the foundation for you, right? This individual has a life sentence. And when I say life sentence, I mean the ooh-wee life sentence, the 51-year life sentence. You know, and they got over 30-some years that they have to do. Still have to do, right? 30-some years that they have to do. And that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. But this individual is in here for committing a murder towards somebody else for this woman. And this particular woman made a mistake. In the game anyway. And she implicated him in the crime. And they both were arrested. Out of fear. Out of fear, man. You feel me? And when she did that, he was arrested. And then later on, he finds out that the reason they picked him up was because of him. And now he's angry because he did this because of her. You feel what I'm saying? And if she would have just kept her mouth shut, then there would have been no problem. But anyway, she's trying to be honest with him and tell him, excuse me, tell him what's going on. And he tells her, look, you do what you do. I don't have anything to say about anything to anybody, you know. So she ends up doing what she does, and he ends up going to trial, and he gets bipped. He gets a life sentence, and so does she. But she ends up fighting her case. I'm still a little sick, y'all. She ends up fighting her case and won on appeal and got out. She got out. And when she got out, she still held him down. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want nothing to do with her. And for years, he hated her. And then her case got overturned and she got sent back to prison. And when she got sent back to prison, she was locked in now. So she's there and she does all these years. She does all these years in prison. And then ultimately, she ends up getting let out of prison. She gets let out of prison. And she's telling him, I got you. This is after 20-something years. I got you. I got you. So they start a relationship. And he tries. And he tries. And he hasn't been in a relationship with anybody in over 20-something years. And he tries. And he goes to some friends of his and asks them what should he do. And they tell him, man, try. Try, because they wanted to see him happy. And so he tries. And while he's in this relationship with her, everything is fine. She goes to talk to the lawyers for him, and they got some lawyers that are going to start working on his case. She's making sure that he has money on his account. She's going to start to come visit him when she's allowed to visit him. She's buying him food packages, clothing packages, everything she can do for him. She's talking to him on the phone whenever he calls. She's helping him with any endeavor that he has. She's there. But she starts to get close to him. And he starts to feel the closeness of the relationship with her. And he starts to tell her that he loves her and all of these types of things. And he means it. But it scares him. So one day, she says something totally within the realm of a relationship. She says to him, when you get out, we're going to do all of these things together and spend all of this time together and all of this and that, right? And he shoots off on her. Listen to me, man. He shoots off on her about something as small as spending time together when they get out, when he gets out. And he tells her, look, I told you you're not going to be telling me what to do. He's picking a fight, y'all. He's picking a fight. He said, every time you say this and say that, I done told you I ain't like it. This is and that. You know me. But gotta keep in mind, she's out. He's told her that he forgives her for what she did. So she's acting as if they are a real couple. She means it. She thought he meant it. And then he tells her, he said, have a nice life. Hung up the phone. So this individual was talking to a friend of his, and his friend said, when you talk to your gal, he said, man, I don't talk to her no more. And his friend said, since when? He said, since the other day, man. She said something silly, and then I just told her it's over with and got on down. So his friend asked him what happened, and he told his friend what happened, and his friend looked at him, he said, man, you tripping, man. He said, you absolutely tripping. He said, man, I don't want to be in a relationship anyway, man. People trying to tell you what to do, this and that. So his friend just sat there and he looked at him. And he said, look, man, what you scared of, man? He said, I ain't scared of nothing. He said, man, let me tell you the story. He said, you ever watch The Equalizer? It's a movie that comes on, right? And I ain't talking about the one with Queen Latifah, and I'm talking about with Denzel, right? And anyway, they show us movies every now and then in here just to catch y'all up, right? And in this particular Equalizer movie, right, Denzel he works at this department store, right? Like Home Depot, but it's Home Mart on the show, right? And he ends up killing a whole lot of gangsters. So this Russian sends this hitman to the States to take care of the problem, find out what's going on and take care of the problem. And he finds out that Denzel is behind it, but he don't know Denzel is a real killer. So Denzel ends up killing another one of his guys, and he goes to the restaurant where he's at, and he throws a pair of glasses on the table that the dude that just had on with blood on him. Denzel said when he threw the glasses on the table, he said he's not coming back. So the Russian looks up at him. He said, you got my attention. So anyway, they banter back and forth, having a little conversation, you know what I'm saying, tit for tat. So Denzel said to him, he said, look here. He asked him, had he ever heard this story about the little orphan boy? And he told him he was familiar with it, but tell him the story anyway. So Denzel proceeds to tell him the story. He tells him, he said, look, there was this little orphan boy, right, that had nobody. His parents had been killed, had nobody. And it was this rich professor that took a liking to him and asked the boy, would he like to come home and live with him and his family? So he took the little boy home and let the little boy live with him. And everything was fine. The little boy was growing up. He was in school. He was learning. He was becoming acclimated to being in a family and all this and that. And it got to be overwhelming for him. So one night, in the middle of the night, a masked intruder comes in and kills the professor, his wife. Kills him. And everybody else. And they never found out who it was. And Denzel is looking at it and implying that he's the orphan boy. But he asked him, he said, why do you think he did it? And Denzel tells him, he said, the boy did it because he was so afraid that one day that the professor was going to wake up and realize that this little boy didn't belong there, and he was going to take him back to that orphanage. And that scared that little boy. So before somebody hurt him, he hurt them. And that's what I'm talking about in this story. This dude was so afraid of love. I'm going to say that. Hadn't forgiven himself, hadn't really forgiven her, doesn't even know how. That when it started to feel good to him, when it started to feel like he would be happy, he chose misery. And he crushed her. And that is what we do a lot of times, y'all. Instead of choosing love, we choose misery. And we think we're doing it because the other person said this, the other person did that. No. By the time you become an adult, okay? Listen to me. By the time you become an adult, you've locked in a certain way of acting. And this person that I'm talking about, he had become locked into this certain way of acting, right? Because of all that he had been through in prison. And like that orphan, he had come to believe that he didn't deserve to be nice, to be treated nice, or to be loved. He had started to believe that. This whole environment in here made him believe that he deserved to be in a place of misery, and he wanted everybody else to be in a place of misery. So he would do things to cause this misery, not even realizing that he's in that dark place. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. If somebody is trying to help you, let them help you. Why is that important? That's important because if you don't let them help you, they can't get their blessing. And by you not allowing them to get their blessing, you can't get yours. Remember that. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.